Hello, and welcome to Michigan and Other Mayhem, the show about Michigan, murder, mysteries, histories, and other mayhem from around the world. Your hosts are Allie
and Jen.
Okay, Jen, let's do this thing.
Jen!
Oh my goodness, it's been so long.
Yeah, honestly, so I looked today to see how long it's been because I was like, I'm curious. It's been a year, over a year, about a year and 2 months.
Feels like forever.
I know, agreed. It literally feels like it's been a long year.
True story. Just so everyone knows, yep, they're gonna hear my dog. I tried.
Did you? That dog is a force, you know what I'm saying? If people met him, they would realize that he's a force of nature. You just have to let him do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he runs this place.
He does. So what's up with you?
Nothing new. Same old since a year and 2 months ago.
Right? So yesterday was our wedding anniversary, and because we're old, Michael and I went to the aquarium and dropped off our assassin snails because they literally had assassinated everything several times in a row. So we're like, here, I accidentally bought a boy and a girl snail, and they made babies, and they're all murderous. I was like, they literally out eat everything that ever goes in the tank, so you can have them and let people know that they've got good appetites and they were raised well.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So cleaning up fish tanks on your anniversary, highlight. Although we did watch the movie Encanto, I thought it was very good. I cried a little bit.
Never heard about it. Never heard. Yeah.
We watched the third Suicide Kings movie, and we watched a Resident Evil movie.
I went to the movie theater for the first time, and I can't even tell you how many years.
What'd you go see?
At least 2 years, 3 years. Uncharted.
And you liked it?
It was good, and I'm going to say it's a mix from like Indiana Jones and Goonies.
I do love myself some Goonies.
So,
all right.
What are we going to talk about
today? Yeah, I'm like, what are you going to do?
I'm going to do, when you investigate things and you know it's bad.
Yeah.
Like the story is going to be bad.
Yeah.
But then you get so far into it and you realize, no, this is just straight disgusting.
But
horrible.
You've already invested.
Yep, you've already invested that time.
Yeah.
And you just
your thoughts, and you're in the process, and you're just going through it.
So we're going to do that one because I need to get it off my computer and off my mind. And it is about Mitchelle Blair. And the case is where the mother murdered 2 of her children and stored their bodies in her freezer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, so
mine is light compared to yours.
I figured.
Yeah.
I figured you'd balance me out.
Yeah, well, mine is an older one that I had written but never like quite finished, and I was going over it. One of the things I was doing, like if I mentioned something, I made sure it still exists because things have happened in the last year.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't you go first, and I'll be the more lighthearted one. Although mine does end with an STD.
Okay. Well, ends a heck of a lot better than mine does. And then I decided when I did this one that I would do it in more of like a timeline.
Okay.
We're just going to go through the timeline. We're all going to get through this. And then
just know that the bad guy gets caught at the end. Please tell me he does or she does.
Oh, yeah, right at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
This is probably the first one. Normally they all say they didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
And no, she was very honest.
No shit.
This mom came out and said, yep, she did it. So Mitchelle Blair lived in Detroit, Michigan with 4 children, 2 girls, Stoney and Gabrielle, and 2 boys, Matthew and Stephen. There were 2 fathers, but they didn't seem to be regularly in the picture.
Okay.
Mitchell claimed in an interview with Crime Watch that during her childhood she was sexually abused by a friend of her mother's. And she told the story about how she let her mom know nothing came of it. Her mother didn't do anything about it. And that, she still carries that trauma, of course, to this day.
Yeah.
From news reports online, life in the Blair household wasn't a happy one. And there was a point where Child Protective Services were involved, and it kind of seemed like it went nowhere.
Okay. So someone knew enough to call, but nothing really happened.
Right. It didn't, I couldn't find anything like it. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like they're there in the picture in these news articles. They talk about it. But back then, and this was in 2002, somewhere around there,
Okay.
it just goes nowhere. And then there was a point in the timeline where the mother pulled the children out of school, which really eliminated anyone seeing,
The views.
signs of abuse.
Uh,
So this is the timeline I could gather.
okay.
So September 2002, there were reports the two daughters were found with burns and bruises on their bodies.
Uh,
And then February 2005, there were reports the two daughters had what looked to be healed slash marks on their backs.
wow.
And the two reports were both from the father.
Okay. From the girl's dad.
Yep.
Okay.
And then in 2006, the mother claimed it was found that when they would go and visit their father, the grandfather would molest them.
Oh.
And then she, of course, refused to allow them to go over to his home anymore. So that really stops that dad, from seeing his daughters.
Oh, wow.
Now, one thing I want to point out is, so she says, talks about her story about being abused and her mother not doing anything about it. And then this happens to her children.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find anything on the situation where she reported it to the police,
Oh.
that there was anything that happened. It seems like
So
she
you're thinking,
removed them from the situation,
yeah.
but you would think you would do something about it.
So you're thinking that, are you thinking that maybe she said that just to keep them from going somewhere where someone could tell on her? Or,
I have no idea. So
okay.
I won't speculate.
Okay.
But I will say there's an issue here that you claim, your mother didn't do anything about it and that affected you. And here's your two daughters, and this situation is happening to them, yet you don't do anything about it other than
Right.
remove them from the situation. And
Yeah.
then it gets horrible after that.
Oh, man.
You know? So now we're going to fast forward to April 2012.
Okay.
This is the date that the father of the two boys will say that's the last time that he saw the oldest son, Stephen. So
Okay.
April 12, the last time he sees the older son, Stephen.
Okay.
August 2012 is when all the events begin to happen. This is where the youngest boy, Matthew, tells his mother that his brother Stephen is molesting him. This enraged Mitchell, and as punishment, she started to reenact what Stephen had done to Matthew. On Stephen, she would do this multiple times. She would sit on him while putting a plastic bag over his head and tying things around his neck until he went unconscious. And then August 20th, 2012, Stephen, he was age 9, passed away. And she put him in the family's freezer. And reports state that this freezer was located in the living room. They lived in an apartment.
Oh, man.
Later, when the body would be found, the autopsy performed said that he died of blunt trauma.
Oh, no shit.
Then now you're going to fast forward. There's a lot of fast forwarding.
Okay.
May 2013. Matthew told his mother that it wasn't just Stephen who was molesting him, it was also his older sister, Stony. He went on to tell her that she was also doing things to Stephen as well. And then Stephen and Stony would together do these inappropriate things to him.
Oh, no shit.
And then this is when the torturing of Stony began. Mitchell actually had Matthew stand outside the door of the bathroom or whatever room she was in and tell her in detail what Stony had done to him. And as he did this, she would beat her. And the mother actually admitted feeding her oatmeal once a day and causing her to become malnourished.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And then May 25th, 2013, Stony, and she was age 13 at the time, passed away and was put in the freezer on top of Stephen.
Oh my God.
And to make matters worse, Mitchell actually made the older sister, Gabrielle, help her put the body there.
Oh, Jesus.
And then later, when the body would be found, the autopsies performed, and she too died of blunt force trauma to the head.
Oh my God.
So then you're going to fast forward again to March 24th, 2015.
Okay.
And this would be the day that, Mitchell Blair's secret would be revealed. The apartment owner was evicting her, and her two children and her were at a neighbor's house at the time.
Okay.
The eviction was going on, and based on news articles, there were police there during the eviction. And when the freezer was open, the bodies were found.
Oh
And
my
then,
God.
yep, and then they located her and immediately arrested her.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. June 2015, Mitchell Blair pled guilty to murdering her two children, and she did receive 2 life sentences without parole.
Okay, good.
The 2 children who survived from news reports were put into child services protection, and the fathers were given a custody hearing, but from what I could figure out, I don't think they ever got custody of their children.
Yeah, I think those kids need like intense counseling. Definitely. They live through
Oh,
some fucking trauma.
yeah. And then I did see that Mitchell was back in court in 2019. She was charged with assaulting a corrections officer.
Oh shit.
She pled guilty and received, 5 more years. But yeah, this was, absolutely. I'm thinking, okay, it's not
Jesus.
too bad. And I didn't put everything in here.
Oh, thank you.
I was like, let me just top level do a timeline now that I'm
So
in it.
basically what you're not telling us is she absolutely fucking tortured those kids.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
And
That,
and I will say she's the first one, it's
yeah.
been a long time since, I stayed away from murder during
Yeah.
our year.
And then you
But
jumped all the way into the deep end with this
yeah,
bitch.
yeah. And
Jesus.
I at least she admitted it. I mean, how can you not admit it? It's in your living room. And you had to have known you were going to get caught. The freezer's in your living room.
Right. And not to mention, it's not like you guys have the strength to carry out a freezer with 2 dead bodies in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
Oh my gosh. Well, mine's a little bit lighter, but like I said, there is some gonorrhea in there. But
Okay. Okay, go for it.
okay, so I'm just gonna tell you about weird shit that's in Michigan, just like little odd things. So one is this I think it's Oldham Cemetery, and this is located in Detroit. So what happened is the cemetery first received their first interred body in the mid 1800s, and then like the last person was buried there in 1948. and it's a Jewish burial ground, and it was like originally very far from the city center, but Detroit got pretty big, and eventually like all the land around the cemetery starts to get developed, and there's Jewish religious laws that are against the moving of interred bodies. So once you bury them, you don't rebury them anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the car company GM bought this humongous portion of land around the cemetery, and they completely tear down the neighborhood all around it. It was called Pole Town. And the cars company then built their plant literally all the way around the cemetery. So this
Okay.
cemetery is completely surrounded by the GM buildings. Completely.
I wouldn't work there.
Right? Twice. I know. That was my first thought. I was like, you guys are assholes, right? So
Yeah.
twice a year, GM allows people to come into the cemetery and visit graves. And the graves are maintained by the company. So there's 1,400 graves at the site. And like, a lot of the headstones are starting to deteriorate. And the plant itself closed in January of 2020. But the future of the graves, remains unknown right now. But I was just like, wow, you guys completely closed them off. You couldn't even leave like a little doorway's worth of land. You know what I mean?
Right. And
Yeah.
and you only allow people twice a year to come in.
Yes, I know. I was like, the only thing that keeps them from being actual assholes is that they do at least maintain it. But since the stuff is starting to deteriorate, step it up, bro.
Right. Right.
So this next one I looked it up and you and I talked about it because I noticed that it was, I think, on sale this summer or something like that. But it's the Cherry Point Farm and Market. It's the Lavender Labyrinth there.
Oh, I've always wanted to go.
I was thinking I want to go too. And I thought it was like on sale or something this summer, which is what made me think about it. So Cherry Point Farm, it was founded in 1949 in Shelby, Michigan, of course. The market opened, so selling herbs and flowers at the time. So Barbara Bull, whose family owns the property, decided to create a labyrinth of lavender. And the labyrinth is this giant circle of flowers. And then, supposedly the scent of lavender contains the ability to relax people smelling them. And it's a circle, so nobody gets lost. This isn't like the movie The Shining. Like, you'll be fine. And it's really, the lawns are really well manicured, and it's just like repeating circles is all. So the inside of the circle is described in this Atlas Obscura article as, quote, over 30 herb beds define a 12-point, I don't know what this word means, Visica, Vesica pattern designed to fulfill the principles of sacred geometry. 12 circles, 52 arbor posts, 7 cross pieces, nod to the months and weeks of the year and the days of the week. Lavender is in full bloom for a few weeks between July and August. That's when we need to jump in, July and August.
Right.
And the on-site market offers you, there's an on-site market where you can get produce and other products made or grown from the farm, or, stuff grew on the farm. Somebody else made it, brought it back to sell it.
So I never knew that it was there were shops, like you could buy things from the farm. I just thought it was just a labyrinth.
Oh yeah, and it was like a labyrinth, a market, and the whole market is actually, the whole thing is open June to October. It's like June 20th to October 31st. But when you really want to go when the lavender's going, it's July to August.
Right. Yeah, and I have a lavender tree, and it blooms, and then blink of an eye, it's dead.
I know.
So
You're like, look, you're so pretty. It's like, no, I'm dead now.
Yeah, so I think it's a really short time you got to go.
Right? Okay, so this one is the Jim Crow Museum of Racist Memorabilia. This is at Ferris State University, which I did have a cousin that went to Ferris State and lived in the area. And let me tell you, they can party.
Okay.
Yeah. One of those like, holy shit, they major in alcoholism. All right.
Okay.
So at Ferris State, which is located in Big Rapids, there's a museum that seeks to promote social justice and teach tolerance. So Dr. David Pilgrim, he was a sociology professor at FSU, which is Ferris State University, before becoming the vice president of diversity. And he has this inclusion program at the school, since the 1970s. And he started collecting objects from like flea markets and secondhand stores across the United States that were racist. And in 1996, he donated his collection to the school. And they were used as teaching tools, and they were kept in this like small area for the next 15 years. And in 2004, David worked with Clayton Rye on this documentary called Jim Crow's Museum to explain his use of racist objects as teaching tools. And it won the best documentary as the best documentary at the Flint Film Festival, which I didn't even know was a thing. And it plays on PBS. So David is a speaker on the subject, and he's written this really successful book. And he consulted with the actor Will Smith on a movie, and he's been featured in different PBS series.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And in 2012, David's collection was open to the public. It's more than like 11,000 pieces.
Wow.
Now, here's one that I think kind of is kids are into today. And then just wait for the end. That's what I'll bring it together.
Okay.
But it's the Waxy Taxidermy and Miniatures Museum. Have you heard of that one?
No.
Okay, so the Wacky Taxidermy and Miniature Museum has over 60 dioramas of miniature scenes. And the taxidermy is done with like raccoons, squirrels, chipmunks, mice. And they also have animals that were created from like different folklores and stories. So not real animals, but they created taxidermy ones of them. And so you can see like, a trout covered in fur, a jackalope, and a wolpertinger. You know what that is?
No, what is that?
Okay, I had to look it up too. So and I honestly want to go to the museum just to see a wolpertinger for real. So I know, so it's a confused creature from German folktales. So the wolpertinger looks like a rabbit, and it has like 5 upgrades on its body. It's a small mammal with the head of a rabbit and the body of a squirrel, and it also has small deer antlers and the wings and legs of a pheasant.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the museum has a house city center that's done on 1/112 scale. So it has like little shops made for the mice in town, and they look really cute and realistic, like riding bikes and pushing carts and stuff like that. So the museum's considered kid friendly. It's in Mackinac City, Michigan. Now, we were in Target the other day, and little mice dioramas where you have a little mouse and like little scenes that you set them in, like around the house, is a whole section of toys at Target.
Really?
Yeah. So I thought maybe that's like a new kids thing we're not into. We don't know about because we each have a kid that's 20.
Right.
You know what
So
I mean?
we have no. Oh, I'm gonna have to go to Target and look at these things.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, this looks just like the pictures from the article, except for these are little plastic toys. Nobody are giving kids like little dead mice. Okay, so the next one is a 2-story outhouse. Now, I've always known an outhouse as basically where you shit in a hole, right?
Right.
So I was like, how can you have a 2-story outhouse? So it was built in 1975. It's in Cedar, Michigan, and I couldn't get the schematics on how it's built, but this is what I hope is that there were 4 holes on like the front side and like 4 holes on the back side, like opposite from each other. Because otherwise one person's shitting on the head of the other. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
why
I'm
would-
imagining.
Right? So why would someone build a 2-story outhouse? Okay, there's 2 different stories, and I can't figure out which one's real. I'm going to tell you both. So they both include this dude named Willie Nelson. Him and his wife, they have 7 daughters. They live in a 2-story structure. And there's a footbridge that they built that led from the structure that they lived in to the outhouse. So you can go to the shed or to the house. So the first explanation starts with the first floor of the main building had a general store that William ran. And then the top part was where the daughters lived, right? Now, to keep the girls separate from the guys coming in and out of the store, he had the 2nd-story outhouse built so his daughters can just walk across a footpath and they won't run into this people at the store. The second explanation, same thing, except for the bottom isn't a general store, but it's actually like a place where he keeps boarders, and he doesn't want the boarders running into his daughters while they go to the bathroom. So he creates the 2-story outhouse, bottom floor for the dudes, top floors for his family. So unfortunately, not long after it's built, the 2-story home actually catches fire and burns down.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the outhouse is still there. I mean, it looks like it's about to fall over in a puff of wind. So hurry if you can. It's been 150 years, more than 150 years, but it's been standing. It's off of M575, and it's just north of Pierre Marquette, train like south of M46.
And
Look
you can
for
go
the
and see
two-story.
this.
There's just a 2-story shitter on the side of the road looking like it's got a serious case of the leans. You know what I mean?
That's great.
Okay, and the last one is super gonorrhea. So August 2019, in 3 countries in Michigan, Kalamazoo, 3 counties, Kalamazoo, St. Joseph, and Calhoun, there were 6 cases of a powerful strain of gonorrhea. And this strain actually can cause you to be hospitalized with a serious illness. And the infected people with the STD had like fever, chills, joint pain, stiffness, and swelling in the joints. And the scary part about this is this infection can happen. It can infect your joints and your internal organs without mostly women not seeing a lot of the side effects to know that they might have an STD. It's more like a silent. Wow. Yeah. So at one point it's like, here are the people who are at higher risk. It's like people with lupus. I was like, okay. People with HIV. Okay. Intravenous drug users. Sure. Immune deficiency people. I was like, okay. And they're like, women.
Oh, God.
Bro, there's a lot of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it said that women, because for some reason women are often asymptomatic or they have mild symptoms like painful or burning feeling while urinating, or maybe increased vaginal discharge. Some of them have like vaginal bleeding between periods, and that's it. They don't know that they have a serious infection raging in their body until it's like full on punches them in the face. So, wow. Yeah, it says that men, though, actually show more of the symptoms. So, dudes, if you're listening, you need to receive medical attention if the following things happen. Does it burn when you pee? Does white, yellow, or green penile discharge come out? Do you have painful or swollen testicles? If so, Jesus. Go see a fucking doctor.
You'd be good for those. You'd be good for one of those, you know, medicine advertisements and stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
And when it's like reading off all the.
Do your balls hurt? Are they painful and swollen? Then go see a doctor. Some side effects might be you have an STD.
Wow.
Yeah, it says there's also like rectal infections in men and women. So look for like discharge, itching, soreness, bleeding, or painful movements. So it said those 6 people were all hospitalized as inpatients for a while. And in 2018, there were almost 17,000 cases of gonorrhea. And that's the 5th year in a row in this lovely state of Michigan that we saw an increase of gonorrhea. And because, you know, gonorrhea doesn't just fight alone. There's also been a rise in chlamydia and syphilis. And it seems like Kalamazoo in particular is a hot spot for STDs.
Wow.
Yeah, well, when I read that, you know, I'm old enough to have grown up during the AIDS crisis. I mean, I remember when people didn't know what AIDS was. You know, that's how old I am. So I was just like, since I was a kid, they've always drilled us into our head like, you can catch a disease and it kills you if you, because dicks are dirty. Right.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And that is some of the odder things about Michigan. You can get super gonorrhea. My cousin Brandy calls it like herpagonorrhea, like chlamydia. She puts all the words together.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, Jen. You know what I want to talk about next time?
What?
A mistake I made. Yep.
You make a mistake? Never.
Yeah, a mistake, but some hauntings. So that might be nice.
I'm gonna come with a story that keeps me not from keeps me away from marriage. Because your husband's gonna kill you.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, that's just how that works.
Yeah, I was gonna say it does happen that way sometimes.
Right.
All right. I'll check you in a minute.
All right. Bye.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.